Good evening, everyone, or good morning or afternoon from wherever you are in the world. My name is Rayanna Campbell. I am your humble host tonight, this evening, for the Masters of Music in Media Scoring and Production informational session. I am joined by some awesome folks, some faculty, and my lovely co-host Andrea Jimenez, who is going to walk you through the ins and outs of this program and get you started with some next steps to be able to add to your education. Andrea, if you want to say a quick hello.
Appreciate you, Rihanna. Hello, everybody. It's good to be here with you. Excited to talk and chat, and you get to know our incredible media scoring and production team of incredible leaders. Thank you for being with us.
Amazing. So I see that most of us are here, so I want to go over just some housekeeping items. This session, it's going to be about 45 minutes and a recording will be available. So if you have to go grab some water, use the restroom during, don't fret. You will get that information available to you. And you do want to use the Q&A feature if you have a question that you want us to answer live. We'll try our best to hit on some frequently asked ones, but be sure to put that in the chat in the Q&A feature. And then if you have specific questions, write down that number 305-284-0050 to speak with an enrollment advisor. They are going to have the best insight on your individual case, so you want to reach out to them. So, just to kind of give an overview of things, this program is 10 courses long. That equates to 5 semesters, pending you stay on the standard track of 2 courses per semester. They're 7 weeks long, and you take them one at a time. So, you take your first 7 week course, there's about a week break in between, your second one, and there's about a 2 week break in between semesters. It is traditionally going to be for fall, spring, and summer. And then that equates to about 20 months or so to complete. It is an accredited program and it does not require GRE or GMAT score to be able to be admitted. And you do produce a final project that allows you to add to your portfolio that enhances your career search or your employment as you enter or continue into the workforce. So, with that, I wanted to give Andrea an opportunity to introduce our panelists.
Thank you, Rihanna. So I'm definitely not going to do them justice. I want them to introduce themselves, but I appreciate you. Camilo, can you please come off mic, introduce yourself to everyone in the audience?
I think it is time for me to take a new picture.
We-
All right, I am Camilo Rodriguez, and I am the program director for the Media Scoring and Production degree. And I've been doing music since I'm like 4. I've been playing piano since I was a baby, essentially. And from then on out, I've been recording, producing, and mixing all sorts of music. Most of my recent stuff has been like on TV for like TV shows. And I am actually currently doing an MFA in interactive media. We're doing a lot of immersive audio, and that's a whole different beast that we're going into that I absolutely love. And it kind of goes with what we're doing here with interactive media and like video games and video game music and all that kind of stuff. So we're really diving into that recently.
That's right. Thank you for that, Camilo. Carlos?
Hello, everyone. My name is Carlos Rafael Rivera. I'm the chair of the Department for Media Scoring and Production. We oversee, apart from the online program, we see the graduate and the undergraduate programs as well for media scoring. And I've been a composer for a very long time now because I'm getting old. I'm 55 and I've been doing music since I'm like 14 or 15 and playing guitar and then teaching lessons and then studying composition. And my career has really been based on writing music for media, well, whether TV or film. And I've been also teaching as long as I've been able to learn music. And in this capacity, it's been at the University of Miami for the last 15 years or so, where my focus for the last 10 or so has been in media scoring and production and sharing basically all of my mistakes as we go along. So that's the best way to explain what I do.
I do exactly
Appreciate
the same.
appreciate that. So let's just jump into our Q&A. Have some great questions for you guys and have everybody get to know our program a little bit better. Let's start with curriculum. So we've evolved since the genesis of what was the media, what is it, writing and product, right? It had even a different name back in the day. It is media scoring and production now, and we'll see what happens in the future. But what, in terms of the curriculum, why did we design it the way that we did? There's such an emphasis on either media scoring and production, both, or depending on the person's preference. And then, of course, they would take general music courses that we offer here at the Frost School and online. And then we have some required courses, the final projects, and then we have an entrepreneurship really heavy course. Camilo, would you like to chime in about that? And then Carlos, I'll ask you,
Sure,
and we'll go from there.
absolutely.
Mhm.
So, to answer your first question, I think it was actually arranging, contemporary arranging and
What
production, then contemporary writing and production, and now a contemporary
I think you're
like
right. Yep,
scoring, like media writing. It's evolved a fair amount of times.
that's right.
I think that's pretty awesome.
Yep.
So to the point, which is why we have both, is that you need both nowadays, right? Back in the day, you could be just an engineer or a composer, and then you would have all these people that would do all those other roles. And that was because it was a lot harder to, like, for example, go to a studio and run tape. You need to be really good at running tape. And if you're a composer, there's a really good chance you're not going to be good with tape. Nowadays, with all the technology and all the things that we have access to, it becomes not so much being gate kept by the gear and the equipment. It is now a gatekeep of knowledge, of being able to do things. And when it comes to media composing, doing stuff on the computer and engineering and doing MIDI and being able to orchestrate, all of these are related to the same thing and they're all in the same bucket. You might have more of a strength in one than the other, but at the end of the day, these are all the skills that you need. And we like to put them in the same category because of the interconnectedness between composers, producers, mixers, and they all just kind of mingle and get to know each other and learn from each other. That's a big part of the curriculum.
Carlos, you have anything to add to that?
Not much, because I mean the truth is that it is a collaborative industry, and it's really important to know that if you're a composer, um, I think maybe like 2 or 3 decades ago, you'd be okay to have have basically being able to write something on paper and on piano, and then you're done. Now you actually have to present a finished product, and it has to be a complete thing. And the way it works now is like you have to have your production skill set there and available. Producers as well have a skill set that they develop, but they also have to deal with songwriting. And the thing is, like, as we kind of have we have a program, the best way to put it is that you have a bucket of courses that can specialize towards your skill set needs. No matter what, if you're a composer, you're going to have to take production because you have to go through that pipeline in order to get work. You have to
Mm.
deliver things that are professionally prepared and sound ready to go. But at the same time, your focus doesn't have to be, if you're into production, you don't have to take video game scoring. It's an option, it's not a necessity. And one of the main things about our program that we're kind of proud about, I would say, Camila, if you want to jump in too, is just the fact that it's not a prescriptive program.
Mhm.
That you don't have to take all these courses and you must take them all. It's more like a bucket of courses that you can take and pick and choose what your emphasis needs to be so you can truly build yourself. So that's another way to put it.
Yeah, going off of what Carlos is saying, the whole building yourself is the entire motto and is the whole point of the way we're doing things.
Yeah.
And what we've seen in other places is you'll have people that come in with maybe a unique set of skills or a unique trajectory. And people are like, oh, that's amazing. You still take the same classes everybody else does, and you just kind of get boxed in. What we want to do is help you go the direction you want to go, and we can help you identify what skills you may need, or even help you see the things you don't know
Yeah.
for that whatever path that you're on. And that's the whole point of it. It's a self-discovery as much as it is we teaching you.
I love that, and it speaks overall to what is the Frost School here at the University of Miami, and just this whole build yourself narrative that we practice for everywhere from undergrad to graduate level programming. So that's definitely resonates, I would say, as a school overall in terms of our culture, whether it be on campus or online. So I appreciate you both bringing that up. When we talk
Mhm.
about students and what they take away from what we want them to take away from our program at the graduate level, the skills, mindsets, habits, right? A lot of our courses, whether they be media scoring, production, mix, of both, the habits of understanding that we're in an industry that there's a lot of projects, right? Right, and there's going to be deadlines, and I know you both are very familiar, and you're probably in multiple right now. And there's expectations, there's standards when it comes to the industry. How is it
Mhm.
that, like, what do we want our students definitely at the graduate level to be taking away from this program when it comes to skills, that mindset, the habits of being very understanding that the work you're putting out there is yours. Your name is on it. You want to be proud of it, right? How, what do you think about that in terms of how you want our students to take away and truly like practice that daily? You both are in it all the time. So speak a little bit to that. Carlos, can I start with you?
Yeah, I mean, I think deadlines that we kind of built a curriculum around project-based, it's a project-based curriculum. A lot of things have to do that you're going to take 3 or 4 projects in your course,
Mhm.
throughout your course that you're taking, and about the modules, they're geared towards having deliveries, and deadlines are what keep you employed. And I guess a better way to say it is deadlines are what keep you employed. Relationships are what give you a career.
Mm,
Mm,
And that psychology really is something that you have to apply. You can't get to the second without dealing with the first, and
100%.
understanding that you have to, no matter what's going on, this has to be handed in. It's always an interesting thing to me that a lot of people who happen to be late to class or late on a project, they're like, oh, it's just school. In the real world, when I get to the real world, it'll change. I've noticed it never does.
Yeah,
If
it's
you,
no
if you're
different.
it,
right, if you're late to class,
oh,
you're going to be
wow.
late on your project delivery. And if you're late on the project delivery in class, it's almost like fake. It feels like it because you're in an academic setting, but it is very much a real world practice that we kind of try to instill in that. And so that's sort of a general answer to that. Camila, if you want to jump in.
That's actually great. Yeah, it's habit formation, right? And
Hmm.
if you have the habit of being late or under delivering or doing all of that, that's not going to magically change just because you're getting paid for it now. You're you're
Yes.
Mm,
you got to build that habit early, right? On that note, I want to say something on top of what Carlos is saying. There's like two sides of when it comes to like a career. One of them is like the creative skills and like actually making good music and all that. And then the other one is the professional, the communicating clearly, being on time, doing all the things that Carlos just mentioned. And they are both sides of the same coin. You
mm,
cannot have one without the other because I don't know a single person that can make great music and turns things in routinely late. It doesn't exist because they never get work,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
one of our classes that we have, which is production 3, it's all about the professional side, not the musical side, not the skills of making good music or being a good mixer or recording engineer. It is being a good professional. And what we
Mm.
do in that class is you have to make a big project, like release an EP or like an album or a major film, something, a major big project. And your job is to make sure it is finished on time and on budget. Nobody cares if you mixed it yourself, if you are the one that is actually writing the MIDI or editing the scores. No, nobody cares. The only thing, at least in my experience with music or with labels, I should say, they do not
Mhm.
care how the music got made. They just care that they paid for it and they got it at the right time and the right quality. That's it. I can
Mhm.
hire everyone and do literally nothing. I'm still a professional. I'm still doing and turning in what needs to be turned in. That being said, the
Mhm.
whole point of being a producer is producing.
Yeah.
But you
It's a
could
diff.
officially be like a project manager, so to speak.
yeah.
Yes.
And that is a huge part of being a successful professional, managing people and deadlines and, turning stuff in. And I think we had a conversation at some point, Carlos, when it's a one person doing a job,
Yeah.
people get super anxious because
Hmm.
if one person fails for X or Y reason, the project is over. Let's
Yep.
say I get super sick and I'm the only engineer.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. The project is over. So people like to see like a team and a competent group of people that work together that
Hmm.
basically says, hey, no matter what happens, this project is going to get done.
Camilo, can you speak? So I appreciate you bringing that up. It segues perfectly to the next question. And when it comes to our students now and how they're submitting their assignments and they're very project based, there is this feature of many of our courses that they have to give each other feedback. It's
Hmm.
it's it's something I learned in grad school a bit ago is this understanding of being a critical friend, right? We're not trashing you, we're not bashing. No, it's we're being critical friends because our work, like if my work can be better because of something I didn't hear or maybe understand in the instruction and somebody just highlighted it for me and it's part of the fabric of what is the course that I'm in, and we do so respectfully and all that, right? Because that's non-negotiable. How we deliver the message is everything. Can we talk about that? Because you just spoke about teams and when it's a one person thing and it's you're only relying on yourself, but just like this understanding of how there is strength in the community that we've built here, both on campus and online, how students engage both ways, our Friday forums, but particularly as the work that they're pushing forward, right? You're gonna hear that. I would hope you're hearing from whatever project you're contributing to how it could be just better, right?
Yep.
So can you speak to that and how that's definitely part of something that we take very seriously here in terms of our culture with our students and
100%.
each other?
So I recently took a class that had my favorite quote on this topic. And it's when you are giving feedback to anybody that you care about, it's like you are helping them survive a zombie apocalypse, right? So think of it like this. If I am with you and we have a breakout of zombies, right? And I'm sitting there with you and you ask me, what's your plan for like the next 5 years? And I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm just going to stay in my apartment.
Mm,
And then you want me to survive. You care about me, right? So what
mm,
do? You ask me questions. You make me think about things that maybe I haven't thought about, right? What are you going to do for food? What are you going to do for water? Don't think you're going to go crazy on like whatever place you are. Like all of these different things. Have you thought about this? Have you seen this? Oh, you have this problem. And then I can be like, okay, I need a garden, I need some water, I need like all these things that would make me survive. And that would be good feedback from the people that care about me because they are looking out for something that would help me survive. And that's why I think it's incredibly valuable. When it comes to feedback, it's like you are telling your colleagues how to survive a zombie apocalypse. And it should come from a place of love, of care, of affection, of like, I want this to be better. I want this to be good for you and for me and for everybody involved for no other reason than it just makes you more prepared. And that's what we want. And going out into the world is essentially a zombie apocalypse. So it's not too far from the truth.
Carlos, and any thoughts about how you approach it and how it's something that just even in your own courses and what you're doing and what you're both you and Camilo are doing in the industry, it's a natural part of what students will and if not they're dealing with now if they are dealing with projects externally but internally that we are really trying to build that culture and we continue to practice it here and how it truly speaks to what they're getting into. Can you speak to a little bit about your experience and just why it's so important that we are practicing it, building off of what Camilo said?
I think the practice of critiquing is important because it's something that many of us are non-confrontational by nature, and we kind of like to avoid this. It has nothing to do with music; it's just human nature.
Yeah.
And the fact is that when we're dealing with this world, what we do and what we present gets critiqued all the time. I'm very much used to doing version 5, version 6, version 7 of something.
Mm,
And it's just more highlighted because it's creative work. And so I make something that's so personal. I wrote this. And have you ever drawn something and shown it to somebody and they're like, God, it's horrible, you know? And they're like, that's just not good. And that
right.
feeling we have is the child in us feeling that rejection. But the truth is, like, you are not your work. And understanding that is kind of like the most valuable thing. And you are subjected to this practice. I personally, at least in the work environment, when I present a cue, they're like, "This is horrible. It's not working." And they're sometimes speaking like anybody would speak, like in any other aspect. And they're like, let's say you ask somebody to build a table for you, and they bring it to the house. You're like, "Man, I like it, but it doesn't fit in this house. Like the painting,
Whoa.
Mm.
it's a square table and everything's round and
Why
that
only
kind
three
of
legs?
yes. And I know it's all creative, but it doesn't work in my house, man. And I'm paying a lot of
Wow.
money for this. So understanding that that is kind of the industry we're coming into, it's the music industry, not the music art. There is a craftsmanship and artisanship that is born out of this. But the
Mhm.
truth is that we're making something that is subject to someone else's approval. Certainly, we're getting paid by someone else, right? So if we're getting paid by them, we want to make sure that the thing
It's
we
a
make is
service.
happy. So
That's right.
understanding that you're not your work is the hardest thing to do, but it's something that we put into practice by critiquing, by learning how to say, look, this we're going to have to make a revision. Let's just do it again. And separating yourself from that has helped me personally, but it's how we kind of apply it in our process in class, where the peers are the ones critiquing. It's not my voice in the class that's saying, "Hey, I'm not sure if this is working." I can be one voice, but at the same time, the other students are going to be receiving from their peers critique as well, which is what helps them improve because people are learning how to say what they're talking about and people are learning how to receive that and that takes a long time. It's a lifelong process. It's not like
Receiving
one
feedback is
class.
hard. It's hard.
It is very
And
hard,
if
but
you
it's part
go
of it.
through the program, you're gonna get feedback on absolutely everything you do, and you kind of get in the habit. And one thing that Carlos said that I agree a lot with is like I am super used to version 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Like it just goes that way. And sometimes it is ridiculous, but most of the time it actually isn't. And in my experience, that has been like, okay, here's version 1, and then they listen to it or do something and have a comment about it. And then if you get defensive, that's it, it's over. But then you try and check it out and
Mm.
maybe look at it, and you're like, oh my God, that was a great suggestion. That was a great idea. This is so much better. Right. And the way I think of it, it's kind of like when you go to like a doctor or a lawyer where they know more about law or they know more about like medicine, but you know more about your case. You know more about your body. So
Hmm.
kind of the same with a director. Yeah, you know more about music, but they know more about the project and they know
Mm.
Hmm.
more what the project needs. And that collaboration of, okay, you're the musician, you're the director, and then just kind of blend it all together. And the output is different than what either of them would have done alone. And nine times out of 10, it's better.
How many times has it been that you both have done projects in the industry and that has happened to where you go in and it's one thing and you have what I assume to be some kind of ideation brainstorming meeting of what the director's looking for, you get hired. Talk about the process of you go in there, you're doing that, you're hearing what they want, you come back with version 1, right? We talk about getting to version 5, 6, 7, 8. That's it's very I think it's very critical and healthy that we are speaking truthfully to the people watching this and considering to go to school for this kind of a degree in that it's no degree's easy, right? But what you're getting from here is so much more than just assignments, and you're getting assessed. Yes, that's part of the process, but it's building yourself in more than just that way, right? You're gaining the skills, but I mean, what's going on up here has to also be regulated in a way to where, well, you're speaking to what you said, Carlos. um your worth is not in your work, but of course what you put out into the world, yes, we want you to take it seriously, we want you to love it and
Hmm.
appreciate it, but while also being able to practice that skill of how do you take remove the psyche, the mind that controls
Hmm.
everything, and then
Hmm.
just continue to put out great work and don't let that block you from that. Like, you go and you meet a director, you do all that, and you're like, and you come back in version 1 and they're like, "Ooh, we like what?" Or and it could just be like, "Absolutely not, go back." How do you handle that? How have you both handled that? How have you seen yourself even grow in, "Oh, this kind of feels normal at this point," and it's not stopping you from putting out your best work. So you can continue to feed yourself, your family, right?
Hmm.
Can Carlos, can you speak to
Camilo
that?
on
Or Camilo, whoever
oh,
wants.
Camilo, if you want on the production side, I'm just curious like how you deal with clients when it's not.
It's a tough one. And sometimes it is, like a difference in creative approaches, and that's fine. But sometimes they maybe want something that isn't maybe appropriate for the project or that it makes sense. And you do have to kind of play the role of like, how do I convince this person? But at the end of the day, it is 100% their project and it's 100% their art, and you are at a service, right? As a when I get hired, let's say as a producer for a songwriter to produce their songs, they will lean on me a fair amount for like the direction of the album, but they do have like
Right.
these core tenets that they usually stick to, right?
Got it.
Yep.
So it is pretty common. And what I have noticed in my experience, the most anxiety inducing thing is not getting any comments. That's like
Hmm.
they hated it, you
Hmm.
know? And
Yeah.
the reason I think that is because I used to work at a studio where every time we would send something out, if we got no comments, it was because they went somewhere else.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So sometimes
Yeah.
there's no reaction and it's like, okay, well, version one is that's it. Like there is not even a chance for version two.
Yeah, like no comments,
It
or
can
they say,
happen.
okay, like it has happened to me where they say, okay, great, thank you. And
Got it.
that's it. It's over and never hear from them again because they went somewhere else. So
Got it.
in my
Mm.
experience, getting comments means they care about it enough and they like it enough that they want to see it work for their project. They want to put the
Mm.
time and effort in for it.
Mm.
And that's kind of how my head has handled getting tons of feedback and tons of like revisions. If
Mm.
Mm,
they want to put the effort to go through 6 revisions, that means they like it. Because if they
mm.
didn't,
It's just not
they would disappear. That's kind
Yeah.
of how I dealt with it.
in your
In
experience.
my own experience, and like,
Hmm.
okay, they like it, let's do it because they like it.
Carlos,
Yeah.
yours?
I think I've had like one project where I had no comments, or like in a positive way, meaning that they liked the first thing I did. Every other project has been, let's find it. Carlos, maybe you should take a day or two to step back and think about it, which is,
Okay.
I've heard comments like
That sounds terrifying.
you're scoring the wrong movie. That's a note to get.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
and it's brutal because
Yeah.
again, they're talking about their project and they're not saying it's easy. The biggest problem you were talking about the psyche, it's the ego. That's the only problem here. And it's
Okay.
like your ego and like your self-defense, your defense mechanism when you receive a critique, you keep hearing you have written something horrible, so therefore you are horrible. But what they're saying is that what you wrote is awful. You're fine, but this is so misguided that
Got it.
and the thing is you have to learn to create that filter. I mean, I've on this last project I'm finishing now, it's a movie. There is a version 40 of one of the cues. There
Wow.
are constant revisions and changes
Amazing.
after approval. Oh, it's great. And then 2 months later, that cue thing, I'm not so sure. And let's go, okay, fine. And being open-minded that again, it's this weird um um kind of fight between the fact that you are creating something that you're trying to bring to their project, but they're also paying you. So there's commerce and art, and it's an intersection of these two
Right.
that we're all trying to find the best way to tell the story. And my way may not be the best way, but they hired me because I'm a professional at my craft. But it
Mm,
doesn't mean that what I say goes. It means that I have an opinion, but they're gonna they're the ones paying.
Hmm.
It's
yeah.
such a complicated and nuanced process that if you add ego to this, you won't work. There is
Mm,
no career. Do you know? Meaning that, oh, they don't understand. But don't they know that I've been working forever, or don't they know that I have a degree, or whatever it is that you could say? They're
right.
not. Our job, I think, also is to learn the language of film and storytelling. Not so much they're supposed to learn music when they hire us.
Hmm.
And just like you have to go to your artists, Camilo, I have to go to the director and understand lenses and understand lighting and understand costume design and understand shots
Oh,
and
wow.
all of these things that's my job to serve them and to come to them. So this could be a 4-hour conversation, I'm
Yeah.
realizing, to your question, so I'll stop.
No,
But
this is
but
great.
but it has a lot to do with and I think what we try to implement in the program is the most practical application of what you will be dealing with when you are working.
Hmm.
It's not
Exactly.
like, in my day, things used to be, so let's learn that. And it's like, wait, that's not even relevant
All right,
to
everybody pull out your pentagram paper and your pencil. Let's
yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of the technology that it's funny because when Camille were talking about these different names that the program has had, it makes perfect sense because it
yeah, it
keeps
does.
evolving. And we have a responsibility to our students to make sure that we're teaching them what's happening now. And
Mm,
and the curriculum is based on what is happening now. right? It's not something I did 20 years ago and I'm happy to share now. And look how it used to be and wasn't that nice. It's no, it's like I've been let go of projects in the last few years. This is how it goes. It works and it doesn't work. Here are the mistakes we've made. Let's try to create the best path forward for our students. Anyway.
It could be an even longer conversation that I would love to have, but it's relevant, as you said, because that's like there's assignments, there's things that we're asking them to do here, not just for this assessment needing to grade you purposes, but it's so that you can there's so much more that that we believe our students deserve when they are seeking a program and the people they want to be around to capture that education. And I
Hmm.
think that here in the conversations that we have, we take that very seriously. We have some
Hmm.
questions from Andrew. Andrew, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. And the first one seemed, well, they're both pretty technical, but I love it because it's telling me a little bit about you, Andrew. I'm gonna just hand it off to either Carlos or Camilo. But first question is, if I
Hmm.
choose to record for my final project, okay, so we're going already to the master's project. Great. Where should I shoot videos? There are certain places where I will not be allowed to do, or due to protocols that prohibit it. How long should a film be? Alternatively, if I choose to create an album, how many songs or pieces should I include in my soundtrack? So that's question one, and it's very technical, but
Hmm.
who wants to handle it? Camilo, Carlos?
I can start with the first one because I think I'm not sure if I'm clear on the question in the sense, but I think I am understanding. If you're asking if I choose to shoot videos, meaning that you would shoot, let me answer by maybe guessing at what you're hinting at. The assets for film scoring, because this is not this is film scoring, the idea of writing music to scenes. We have a relationship with Netflix that's built in
Hmm.
that we've had for the last few years now, where they provide assets to us, meaning a scene with Ryan Reynolds and Dwayne the Rock Johnson, um, and they have to do an action sequence, and you are given the film. And then you're given the audio, the dialogue, the sound, and the temporary music, and you're supposed to replace the music with your own music. So you're working to given assets, is what we call those things, right? And you're given those in the project. You don't have to go out and film something yourself in order to put music to it. That's how I'm understanding your question. And please rewrite the question if I misunderstood it.
That was
Do you
great,
think I
Carlos.
did?
I think you got it. He's asking a follow up, and it's a little
Okay.
more about the project. So I'll get to it, but I definitely want to hit that second question in, if I choose to create an album, question that he had as part of this number one, two, and one question.
Mm,
But yes,
yeah.
I feel like it got there. Go ahead.
Yeah. Camilo, is that relevant to you, that question of the album? If I make an album, or is this still regarding soundtrack? It depends. Camilo?
Yeah, so album is a different beast,
Hmm.
right? And when it comes to video, there is no video required for the album. It's just 100% you recording your own music. And the minimum required tracks that we tell people to do is three,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
we very much encourage a full EP, which is around five or six.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
the reason for that is because that's usually what gets like I think five is the minimum for like an official EP.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And we want people to kind of meet the standards of like, for example, if you want to like submit your stuff for like Grammys, that's part of the format that they use, that you need a specific amount of songs for a release to be considered an EP. So minimum three,
Hmm.
encouraged five or six. That's basically it.
And then question two that Andrew has is, if I choose to shoot a film as my final major project with musical scores that I will integrate into it, how long should each one be? Can we include any gaps of silence between the scores? How many actors, voices, actors should I cast? Okay, so it sounds like if he does a final project that's more media scoring, do we require them to actually create the film as well, or
No,
can it be
No.
over media?
absolutely
Yeah,
not.
so again, very ambitious, Andrew, which
Hmm.
we love to see, but please, can we speak to that so that we get clarity? I know our final projects, they range like so
Yeah,
much across the spectrum of students. The last 10 I saw were like, oh my God, none of them, they were so diverse. So can we get
Hmm.
clarity on the final project?
yes.
I think it's
So
important.
I'll say this part that I think is really important. You are not required to shoot a film at all for any reason. That's not what we do, and I'm not an expert in that anyways. I can't tell you like,
Hmm.
oh, you used the wrong camera, right?
Correct.
Hmm. Yeah.
So you are not required to do that at all. Instead, we have a couple of options for you. One of them is there is a fairly big network of people that we have access to here. We have student filmmakers from the School of Communication. We have
Right.
student game developers from the School of Communication. And we have a whole bunch of other stock footage and films that Carlos has access to from like Netflix that you can use as part of your final project.
Amazing.
So we have assets for you to use. And that's like the baseline. If you have absolutely nothing, you can use those assets and you will be fine. Above that, we recommend and encourage to build relationships and network. And one of those things is going to be finding people that are making films that you can score as your final project. For the length, there is no set like official length. It could be like a short film, but at the end of the day, it needs to be like a substantial, noticeable, well done thing. And most of you will be submitting a proposal about halfway through. And this is when we will be able to tell you, hey, this is too short, this is too much, this is too big, this is too long, this is too whatever. Because at the end of the day, we do want you to be successful. So when you submit your project, we will tell you what parts of it we think are appropriate for you to do and what parts you might want to reconsider. That's basically it.
That's
Um,
go
I'm
ahead,
seeing
Carlos,
another
please.
question right now. Is that okay? Do
Oh,
I see it? I see a
oh yeah.
question from somebody else, and they're asking on the subject of
Oh,
Netflix partnership. Do
yes,
many
thank
graduates
you.
go on
Did
to
I
work
miss it?
with? It just came in, I think.
Yeah, from Seth. Seth, thank you for your question.
Oh,
Carlos, do you
I
want me
see.
to read
Yeah.
it or do you?
If you want, go for it, and then I'll get ahead and answer it.
Seth, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. So, Seth asks on the subject of the Netflix partnership, do many graduates go on to work with Netflix or any other streaming services, not necessarily as the head composer, but maybe as an orchestrator, arranger, or another position inside the music department that of that particular project? Okay, so let's talk career, right? We're preparing students for
Hmm.
that, but let's speak to that a bit.
Well, that has to do, and Camilo can jump in too, but we basically, a lot of our students go on to work as assistants for other composers, work on projects of their own. Um, and I think one of the things about, I'm looking at the question, for other instruments, not necessarily as a head composer, exactly, orchestrator, arranger, another position
Hmm.
inside the music department. That's
Yeah.
very much the case. The network is really what happens and triggers onto the career. We're just
Right.
starting something also with, with graduate students that we've just had a communication with a company called Bleeding Fingers that is begun by Hans Zimmer and and other folks that basically recommending students towards them to to their crew, and that's a freelance job that can be done remotely from anywhere. And that's something that we just opened up to the graduates, so we kind of have direct connections to some aspects in the industry, but employment is never guaranteed. It is the
Of
music
course.
industry, so a lot of this has to do with the relationships that you create and you carve out for yourself as you go along. But very much that is the case. The idea is to better prepare you to be in the world. The relationship with Netflix was born out of conversations I was having 5 years ago with some of the heads of the company in charge of legal, and saying, listen, our students have for them to be go out into the world and be able to support you and do better work for you, if you can provide us the assets for them to work with, it's going to be much easier. Once you're out
Right.
there and you're trying to learn, having access to these assets is access to these assets
Yes. That's
is a hard sentence.
alliteration.
Becomes, yeah, a little bit. And so it becomes a little challenging. If you have access to these, you can understand how to just separate dialogue from sound in the background and then write your music over it, because music's writing or scoring is supposed to work with dialogue, and dialogue is never going to go away. When people start this, they usually start by turning off all the sound and all the dialogue, and they write their music to the scene. That's very 101. That's sort of like the first thing. That's what I did, certainly, when I started. And
Right.
then all of a sudden, the most important part of my melody was exactly as the person was saying, the butler did
The
it, or
most
what,
important part
the
of
most
the
important part of the dialogue. And so you have to understand that that's not going away. It's almost like you're decorating, Christmas tree. Everything's there, and you just have to put the lights and the ornaments in the right place. You can't just bulldoze through the tree. And
Right.
so that's kind of what this process is. And we started working with them to create this sort of relationship where they have access to this, which I think is really helpful. But yeah, the process is going to be something that you grow together. It's a career that takes a very, very long time to really establish yourself. Very few unicorns kind of come out and are working professionally already. but there
Okay.
this does happen. However, I would say that it's a long journey, and it's obviously certainly worth it as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
And
it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yes.
And
and go
on
ahead,
that
Camilo,
end,
please.
Andrea, on the other side of things, for example, with production, there
Hmm.
are a ton of studios in Miami, and many of them come to us. We find, for example, people that want to work in those studios or maybe do internships. And what's great about those internships, although not all of them are great, some studios aren't nice. But the ones that come to us, and if we're recommending it, we know them, so we can at least send you to a place that we know is going to be an okay experience. And when you go to those places, you network like crazy. You meet hundreds of people. I'm not exaggerating. Every day you go to a session, there's a new artist, there's a new band, there's a new group. And most of the people that I have met and have a professional relationship with is from engineering sessions in studios. And that is like the 101 for the production side, especially if you're like a very valuable intern or they trust you. What a lot of these studios will do is they will let you use the studio for yourself on the downtime. So you
Right.
can be an intern, and then Saturdays when the studio is available because nobody booked it, you can bring people you're working with and record them there. And that's a really
Right.
common way of just kind of building up your like what's the term? Like the amount of songs that you've produced or
Your rep. Yeah.
Your
catalog, your
portfolio,
repertoire.
right.
Yeah, exactly. And that is a great way of doing it. And it's really, really common. And one of the things that we do here is basically prepare you to succeed at what will most likely be the first job, which
Yeah.
will either be a studio assistant or a composer's assistant or something of the sort. You could still go out, like Carlos was saying, and you can do your own thing, you can meet your own people, but that can happen in parallel. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
I appreciate that. And I've just I know we got to get out of here. I can speak to you both forever. But something that so you both speak about like what we're doing now and our students and what they're currently engaged in now, careers, all of that. Yes, and it's about the person. What do you want to get out of this? How much work are you putting into it? Do you want, I mean, Camilo, I've seen multiple times students send you emails, hey, can you listen to this, that, that's about that may not be about a course. It may just be something about like they want to introduce and put out there and they just want that your stamp of approval, right? As program director and Carlos, you as well as chair, and just, hey, what do you think about this? And I've seen them
Mm.
do that, and you guys really are you, you're taking this seriously. And if you, for example, if you can't answer it, I've seen it be like, I need you to just give me a little bit because I really want to give this project that you're working on the respect that it needs. And I just want to make that clear to the folks that are here and will watch this hopefully after. It's the community that we have built here, the networking that you can do here, and the initiative and the efforts that they put into this
Hmm.
work here in this program, right? No one in any industry, whatever you get into, are just it like are going to hand deliver it to you. At least that's not typically how it works. And what's gratifying here is just like, look, put yourself out there, like, and we're here to receive it. You don't know how to go about it. Reach out. Rayana is, I mean, she's our online student success coach, advisor, everything. She's freaking amazing. And like, if you need help with how we digitally write, that is a skill set that we want to teach you here too. Because I get it. Sometimes creatives, an email may come off as like not the best tone, but you didn't mean it that
Hmm.
way. And you didn't mean it
Hmm.
that way. You're just so eager. Can you look at, we can help with that. We really want to put out people into the world that whatever you weren't able to get before you met us and invested your schooling in us, we want to give you all that and more. So that's just something I wanted to put out there because I see it happen often with the emails and you guys get the requests and you're like, I don't have time. However, I'm going to give you the time. Give me X amount of time and I'm getting back to you because this project that you're working on deserves that respect. And you both take that very seriously and highly. And to ensure that our students are really finishing this program through a final project that they have to defend to you all, and that they're prepared for it. So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that, and I appreciate you both. One last question and something for just perspective that I got from a student not too long ago, and they were interested in asking in another program, a program director about this, and I'm like, I want to bring this into my other webinar info session. So if you both were a student entering what is the field of media scoring and music production today, what would you personally spend time getting very deeply curious about, beyond, well, whether it be what we got going on in terms of curriculum, but beyond curriculum to stay ahead of the change? what would you both, if you're coming into school now at the graduate level, we'll keep it graduate. So you got undergrad, you've gone through certain things,
Hmm.
all that.
Okay.
What would you spend time personally getting deeply curious about to stay ahead of the change that is ever evolving in our music industry? Who wants to go
Camilo?
first?
Oof, give me like 30 seconds.
I know
Okay, then
it's
then
super, but please.
I would probably make sure that I'm learning every single digital audio workstation that's being used to make music.
Cool.
To get my tool set just to because a lot of us have this one thing we work on to create, and it's like Logic or Cubase or Ableton or whatever. I would actually become like it's cheesy, but I would become awesome at every DAW, and just like understand them all. It's really cheesy, but it works.
I
Oh
And
my
love it.
God, that is incredibly
because
cheesy. I
that way
appreciate
you're
it.
more practical if you're going to assist a composer and they do Logic, but you're Cubase or you're Ableton, you're kind of closing the opportunity to kind of work with someone and collaborate. I
That's
would
right.
also be looking at all the AI tools that are available and that are being released right now in production and in music generation and in creation, and
Wow.
actually understand and get my hands dirty and understand how the process works, because this is a whole new kind of ecosystem that is being created. And I think it's very early. It seems like a lot of people are saying, oh, it's everything's changed, and it's changing. But I think being informed about the change and being involved in how the tools work is imperative in this time, because however, there was a time when we went from analog to digital, and a lot of folks were kind of very much stuck on analog. They like to roll tape, is what they would say. I like rolling tape, and therefore they would make the recording on using digital tape. I mean, regular analog tape. Pro Tools came and decimated the industry. I mean,
That's right.
80% of
That's
the
right.
people that didn't want to change no longer work.
Yeah,
And the only people who stayed working were the people who were legendary or iconic and just stay with their practice. But for the most part, the industry really did see a change. And it wasn't overnight, it took like a decade, but it happened. And so I think understanding the tools that are being out, embracing the exercise of trying them out is probably being open
yeah.
to how that works is probably the most imperative aspect, I would say, to
To
go
stay
forth.
curious. Thank you.
Stay
Camilo?
curious, yeah.
Yeah.
They stay
No
curious. There
judgment.
you go. I would say, with my experience with students, I think the most important skill to kind of get up and running would be signal flow, and then just understanding signal flow, because it's a huge,
Oh, wow.
huge barrier for a lot of people.
Wow.
And I
Mm.
had a teacher that used to say this, and I love this saying: you become an audio engineer when you stop thinking about engineering. And what she
Oh.
meant was, if you're in the studio and you're thinking, okay, I have this mic, which means I have to plug it in here, and if I need to get it to the preamp, I need to plug it like this. And then, like, thinking about that engineering, you're not an engineer yet. You're learning engineering.
Mm.
But when you're in the studio and you're like, ooh, I like this guitar, let me mic it like this, or maybe try this because it makes sense with the recording. And all of your thoughts are high level creative ideas. And the technical stuff just happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just happens because you know it, and it doesn't stop you from being creative. You don't spend mental effort or energy thinking of those technical skills. So having a strong foundation with like signal flow, it's like, okay, output feeds an input, applies a process, does something else. Then I go from here to here, and all of that stuff, when it becomes automatic, then all that brain power gets liberated to be creative. And that
Wow.
applies to what Carlos was saying, because DAWs are all very different, but they all still have the same concept. You go from one plugin to another,
That's
from
right.
one track to another.
That's
There
right.
is a signal flow applied in every single one of them. And understanding signal flow, I think, would be the first thing I would tell people to kind of, okay, you're at a graduate level, you know music, but you're not super comfortable with the engineering side of it. Learn the engineering first. That's like,
Mm.
get that one out of the way. And once it's learned, everything else will build on top of it.
I know we are at time, and I appreciate you both so much for being here with us. I think we gave them a lot: curriculum, ethos, psychology. We went into staying curious in the future. So I hope we did it justice. And if you're here with us, thank you. And if you watch this as a recording, thank you. Rayana, we are kicking it off to you, and you can get us out of here. Thank you, Carlos and Camilo, for being with us.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you.
A
Thank you,
pleasure.
Rana, for what you do, and Paula, and of course, Andrea and Camilo.
Appreciate
Andrea, you put it best. We have such supportive faculty. I cannot stress that enough. Just to give you guys some next steps if you're thinking, which from thinking to doing now. Wanted to give you an idea of the level of support that we have. It is in our people, but we also have an online library that you can look into. We have a career center in addition to the networking opportunities that you have with your faculty and with your classmates. We also have accommodation services, and you have opportunities to connect with students on campus as well as online through the Graduate Student Association and through Frost overall. So, some information to take note of for applying. What do you need? You need your transcripts, your resume, a personal statement. Why do you want to do this program and why now? Two letters of recommendation, people that are familiar with your work. If you're choosing to use financial aid, your FAFSA, and then your actual online application and portfolio. So, with that, I want everyone to write down this date. That is going to be Monday, November 3rd. That's our early admission deadline. And the really amazing thing about this date is if you apply by November 3rd, then you are eligible for the 50% tuition waiver. And not only that, but you can get off the $300 deposit fee. So, being able to access this program, we want it to be accessible to you guys. We want it to be a part of your next steps in your education and your career overall. But with that, you guys have been amazing. And again, would love for you to connect with us through an enrollment advisor. If you missed the number, again, it's 305-284-0050. We cannot wait to see your application come through. You can scan that QR code there and get in touch with us. Have a wonderful night, and we will see you in the program. Thank you all. Bye.